have something exciting and wonderful in store for everybody. And we have a special guest as well. But at this point, I'll hand over to the managing partner of Hilton Top Solicitors firm to introduce him and to read his portfolio. Over to you, ma'am.
All right, thank you, Angela. Today we have Senator Ihenye with us. Senator Ihenye is the lead partner at Infusion Lawyers, where he heads the fintech, blockchain, and virtual assets practice of the law firm. A tech lawyer with interest in policy and regulations. Senator is the current president of Stakeholders in Blockchain Technology Association of Nigeria, CBAN. He served as vice chairman, policy and regulations. Senator is also the current general secretary of the Blockchain Industry Coordinating Committee of Nigeria, BICON, the coordinating body in Nigeria's emerging blockchain industry. He is also the current general secretary of the FinTech Alliance coordinating team, FACT. Senator is the exclusive contributor Nigeria chapter to the International Guide to Blockchain 2020 and lead trainer, Blockchain for Lawyers 101. Senator is currently the first vice chairman, Intellectual Property Committee and member of the Information Technology Committee of the Nigeria Bar Association Section on Business Law, NBA, SBL. So ladies, kindly join me to welcome Senator Ihenye, our great, amazing speaker for today. I know that we have our questions already that we will throw, and then he will provide us with answers as he sheds light on the regulatory framework of blockchain in Nigeria. Thank you so much, Senator. We are glad to have you here. Despite your busy schedule, you still carved out time to be present here today. I really appreciate you. Please, you can have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deborah, for hosting me at this wonderful event. I must start by commending your work in this space, blockchain and technology space generally. I am particularly delighted that you are helping to raise the next generation of female young lawyers who will be better equipped for the future. As we all must have imagined, the blockchain technology provides immense opportunities within the legal space and outside that. And what some of us are trying to do as little as we can is to ensure that we can pioneer that space and open that space up to the future that you guys represent. So thank you very much, Hilton Top Solicitors, for the opportunity of having to speak with the future of the legal profession. Now, of course, I expect that some of these guys are already called to the bar as well.
Yes, very well. Some few of them, yes. Yeah.
All right, great. Well, I have been asked to talk about the legal and regulatory framework of blockchain technology in Nigeria. And when Deborah asked me to take on this, the first thing that, went in my mind was, hey, this looks like a very, very big task. So I would like that we make it as interactive as possible so that I can, so that we leave no stones unturned. For one who also provides some courses in this area, I didn't want to be tempted to, make this an academic affair. We are all practitioners in the blockchain space in the country. So I imagine that it will make, it will be of more benefits to everyone here if we're able to interact more than just delivering a lecture. As introduced by Deborah, my name is Senator, and I currently lead the blockchain and virtual assets practice group of my firm, Infusion Lawyers, and I'm currently the president of the Blockchain Association in the country. So quickly, when it comes to blockchain technology in terms of legal and regulatory framework, first, it's important that you have an understanding of the context, because from my engagement with a number of lawyers, both young and old, when it comes to exciting emerging technologies like this, it is very easy for people to easily fall into that hole where you're only seeing things from that limited perspective of blockchain technology. As a lawyer, or to be a lawyer in this space, you need to understand context. And in understanding context, I'll take us a little back to blockchain technology as an emerging technology itself, and how the legal and regulatory framework was shaping out from there. So I imagine that most of us have various understanding about what blockchain technology is. You know, some people say that blockchain is a solution for everything under the sun, whether it's in agriculture, insurance, banking, education, logistics, pharmaceuticals, health, and all that stuff. But is that really so? Quickly, let's look at this. I like to define or describe blockchain as the internet of value. What does that mean? Today, we understand the internet. You know, when we talk about Zoom, we talk about Google, we talk about a meeting like this over the internet. We understand the internet from the point of view of communication. In other words, the internet enables exchange of communication, right? It talks about exchange of information. That's what the internet is. I like to see the blockchain as the third generation internet that enables not an exchange of information this time, but this time an exchange of value. You can note that somewhere. So we're talking about the internet of value. So when you are able to store, transfer, save, or manage, or secure anything of value, right, without any central authority, middleman, intermediary, third party, right? That's what blockchain is essentially about. And what is this thing when I say value? What is this value? Many persons today, understandably, understand that value to be cryptocurrencies, which is digital form of money. But that value can change depending on what you're looking at. So that internet of value can be value in terms of your digital identities. It can be value in terms of stocks or shares in a company. It can be value in terms of intangible assets like intellectual property, copyrights, you know, all that in music and arts and all of that, all of the rest of them. So you are essentially looking at anything of value that can be stored, transferred, managed, or exchanged over the internet, right? Without a middleman, without a bank. That's pretty interesting, isn't it? So for the first time since 2009, guys, so that we know where we are, since 2009, for the first time in the history of man, we are able to transfer or exchange anything of value with a third party or with someone else without a middleman. It has never happened. It had never happened before Bitcoin blockchain was introduced by Satoshi Nakamoto in 2009. So where does that take us? It means that with the blockchain technology, which some experts have described as a distributed ledger technology that enables you to record and secure data without the need of a third party. With that blockchain technology, you can store, manage anything you can think of. And that is why we have various applications of the blockchain today, with cryptocurrencies being the most predominant one, understandably, because the first blockchain, or the first type of blockchain that was created, when Bitcoin was made, it happens to be a cryptocurrency application. So ever since then, we've seen thousands of cryptocurrencies come up other than Bitcoin. But this does not mean that blockchain is all about cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrency is just one of the many applications of the blockchain technology. So that's some context. I'll give you the second line of context you should understand, especially coming from a regulatory and legal angle. Over time, in my work in the space, I've come across regulators, including the Central Bank of Nigeria, Securities and Exchange Commission, Nigerian Financial Intelligence Units, and the rest of them, raise alarm over what dangers cryptocurrencies generally, have in the financial system. And I had a lecture with the Legal Services Department of the CBN back in July, where I was asked to provide a lecture on fintech, blockchain, cryptocurrencies, and regulatory frameworks. And one of the things I pointed out to the CBN back in June was that we need to understand something, what I call the 3Ds. You can note that, the 3Ds. The 3Ds are: 1, digitization; 2, digitalization; 3, decentralization. I repeat, digitization, digitalization, and decentralization. What is digitalization? What am I even talking about? The 3Ds shows you the evolution of technological innovations over the last, say, 80 years, precisely starting in the 1960s in the US. The first D happened, which was digitization. What's digitization? Basically, you are converting paper to paperless. So anything on paper, you are making it paperless, you're making it electronic, right? That started back in the 1960s, right? That's where it started. At some point, we left that area and got into what is called digitalization. Now, digitization and digitalization are not the same thing, although they sound similar. When it comes to digitalization, you are no longer looking at just turning a paper world to a paperless world, or a physical world to an electronic world. You're now looking at moving to the next level of transforming your business model. So you can understand digitalization to the extent that it changes the business model of, say, a brick and mortar law firm, for instance, to a virtual law firm, where you now begin to do business online as a virtual law firm. I'll give you an example of business model changing in the digitalization stage. Today, you know about Momo, right? Momo is a mobile money service by MTN. MTN is not a bank. It is not a fintech. It's a telecommunications company regulated by NCC. But it now has Momo, which is regulated by the Central Bank of Nigeria. That is a fine example of digitalization, right? So we move on to the last stage, which brings us to where I want us to be. Decentralization, that is the next step, and that's where we are today. What's decentralization? If you decouple decentralization, you have D and you have centralization. The idea of centralization is, having a central authority being in charge, having a central point of control. When it comes to decentralization, you are devolving power. So there's a devolution of control. So decentralization, there is no central authority, such as a bank or a central bank or anywhere. You just have a peer-to-peer network. It's called P2P, a peer-to-peer network, where there is no central authority who is calling the shots. This time, it's people-driven, it's data-driven, and so is decentralized. That is the stage we are right now. And it is from this stage of decentralization that a decentralized or distributed ledger technology called blockchain has been created. Why have I taken us through these evolutionary stages? So that we understand that whether you are the central bank governor or you are a fresher who just left the Nigerian law school, you need to understand that there is an evolution going on and it cannot be stopped. The same way no central bank or no regulator or government could stop the idea of digitization. And the same way we couldn't resist the idea of digitalization, it's also the same way decentralization must happen. And it's happening right now. So all of the, and let's pay attention to this part, all of the competing interests that we have in society between the regulated, the unregulated, and the regulators today is normal. It's normal. So it is to be expected. Why? Because regulators will have their interest to protect. If you're a central bank of Nigeria, you are interested in protecting those things that the Central Bank Act 2007 and the Banks and Other Financial Institutions Act has also said about what the central bank must protect. For instance, the central bank must ensure financial stability. It must ensure that the naira, the legal tender, is safe and stable and all of that stuff. It must ensure that the financial system is not used for money laundering, terrorism financing, and other illicit transactions. That's what the central bank will always drive because that is its statutory role. At the same time, the Securities and Exchange Commission will come up with the idea or interest of ensuring that there is consumer protection and investor safety in the securities and investment markets. That's because the Investment and Securities Act 2007 empowers the SEC to do just that. At the same time, you have innovators, entrepreneurs out there who continue to disrupt how things are because they want to make things simpler, because they want to make things faster, easier, more convenient, but necessarily when innovators are coming from the left-hand side and regulators or the government are coming from the right-hand side, then there's going to be constant and continual struggle, right? A conflict between these two people. So it's normal that there's nothing out of that. There's nothing strange about that. Now, when those conflicts are happening, that's where you as a lawyer or a future lawyer would be interested. How do you ensure that you are bringing sanity to a potentially insane environment where regulators and the regulated and the unregulated are constantly in a state of conflict? You have to bring sense into all that. Once you bring sense into all that, you will be able to create value. And it is that value that will pay the bills for you as a lawyer in the space. So all of that picture brings us to legal and regulatory frameworks. I think with this background, it will be easier to flow from here so that everything we have to say will be in context. I don't want us just talking all legal and no context in the markets. So at this point, After this, well, I would like to think it was a brief introduction. I'd like to know if there are any questions at this point before we move to the legal and regulatory frameworks themselves. Any questions at all? I'm very happy to have anyone ask questions. Thank you. I'll just check the chats and see if there are any questions to pick up. Okay, so Inweke Favor has a question. If the admin could allow Inweke engage.
Okay, very well. Inweke, kindly raise your hands. Since you've not sent it to Adela to take the question, you can raise your hands so we permit you others. You can send it in and then the coordinator could probably read it out. Inweke, please kindly raise your hands so we unmute you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So while we wait for Inweke Favor to come up, so that's the context. And I have to say that as lawyers or as future lawyers, for those of us who are yet to be called to the bar, you must essentially realize that it's not going to be all legal jargon in this space. You have to be able to make business sense. Increasingly, today's clients are highly sophisticated and the environment is changing. So they also expect that their lawyers will be pretty multidisciplinary in terms of approach to law. So yes, it's great that you have legal expertise. I like to call it the T. You can't survive with just being a high lawyer. What is the high lawyer? The high lawyer is shaped letter high. It means that you are deep in legal expertise. Yes, you should be. That's why we were in the Faculty of Law, studied law. That's why we were at law school for 1 year. And that's why we continue to take, professional, certifications and all that. We keep dipping the T. It's good, the I rather. That's very good. It makes your legal expertise sharp. But in today's world, you have to be a T lawyer. What is a T lawyer? You have to find a way to, have multidisciplinary approach across other areas that intersect with law, so that you are like this. You see my hands? Rather than like this. If you stay like this for too long, yes, people might come to you for your legal expertise, but guess what? Lawyers, the potential clients out there these days are not just needing legal solutions. They need someone who understands their business, because that person has multidisciplinary approach or understanding of things. That gives you an advantage. So by multidisciplinary approach, you're looking at stuff around understanding technology, understanding business, understanding the markets and all that stuff. That's pretty important. If you do, then that makes a lot of sense, and you'll be able to make more sense for yourself. And your bank account will be making even more sense for you because you are bringing value to the market, right? So that's that. I don't know if Favor has dropped in something yet.
So she typed her questions.
Oh,
her
okay.
question.
Okay,
her
see.
question is, at any point in time, can decentralization evolve into another stage?
Okay, that's a very good question. I think that question is worth looking at much deeply later. But just to say now that as with every existence, things will continue to change and evolve. The same way we moved away from digitization and moved into digitalization. At some point, maybe not this century, maybe this century, we will definitely move from decentralization to something else. So let's see if the next one will be a D as well. Hopefully it's not destruction. But really, let's understand that one of the things that has been driving this stuff are two things, if you ask me. One, the idea of a data-driven economy. I told the CDN and the SEC a few months back, I said, whenever we say that we are embracing a data-driven economy, it's becoming a cliche. We don't even understand the idea or the implications yet. The idea of a data-driven economy is, of course, that the owners of data will drive the economy. And who are the owners of data? If you look at the Nigeria Data Protection Regulation, or even the GDP PR as well, the General Data Protection Regulation introduced in the UK, right? The idea is that power is now in data, and that data belongs to you and me. And so if you want to build a data-driven economy, the implication is that you have to take the people, the individuals who own the power along. So the individuals are saying, we now want to have our own kind of transactions without needing the central banks. What happened? They created cryptocurrencies. So what do? Do you fight it? No, of course, because that's the data-driven economy. What you need to do is to sit back and regulate. If you don't, you might become irrelevant, because whatever you do, you will find that these guys will continue to grow and grow because it's a data-driven economy. So, Favor, let's wait for the next D. I'll be sure to let you know if we're still all alive. Okay, all right. So for other questions, please, just as Favor has done, push it to the chat so that we can take it up from there. At this stage, I think it's good. We'll spend the last 30 minutes trying to understand context and to answer.
Sorry, Senator, I think there are some in the Q&A.
Oh, okay, yeah, and that's where it should actually come from.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Am I permitted to take them?
You can go ahead, please.
All right, thank you very much. I didn't get the 3 Ds you mentioned earlier. Okay, I think someone answered that. Digitization, digitalization, and decentralization. That's to Adela Yungo. The next one I see here says, what is the blockchain all about, before going into what the regulatory frameworks entail? Okay, I guess this person didn't join early enough. I tried to give a bit of background about what blockchain is, just so that we have some context. Let me repeat a bit of that right away. So the blockchain is all about enabling anyone from anywhere to be able to carry out a transaction with anyone from anywhere without any central authority or middleman, using a means by which information can be secured or protected, usually through cryptography. I didn't want to go into all that technical stuff, but just understand that when it comes to blockchain, just the same way you use the internet to send a message or to have this Zoom meeting right now for the purpose of communicating with one another, what we use blockchain for is to enable an exchange of value, a transaction of value, whereby anything can be exchanged with another person without a middleman or authority. A good example is how we send money, for instance, from your bank to my bank. We are, yes, exchanging value. But the problem with, but the difference with that is that we both rely on a middleman or intermediary or central authority, which in this case could be your Zenith Bank and my Standard Chartered Bank. These are middlemen trying to enable a transaction between the both of us. In a blockchain world, you will not need those middlemen because a blockchain technology is based on a distributed ledger system, which means that rather than relying on a system that is peer-to-peer, peer-to-peer means you, me, her, all of us together, sharing information and able to exchange value. So you can apply blockchain in any industry. It doesn't have to be cryptocurrency. That's why people say that it's even possible to conduct an election using a blockchain. Why? Because with a blockchain election, it means that we can simply just have our digital identities, stored, secured, and transferred in a way that is immutable, meaning you can't change what has already been completed, in a way that is transparent, meaning that everything is open, in a way that is secured, meaning that we're not relying on or trusting that Senator Henry will do the right thing. Rather, we are trusting what is called, what people like to call the algorithmical data or mathematics, right? That will ensure that through cryptography, you can secure anything of value, right? We'll talk a bit about cryptography later in the day. Can you throw some light on the role of regulators? We will get there shortly. The ban on cryptocurrency by the CBN, does it have a decentralized disadvantage and advantage, and how do we? Okay, I see. Okay. All right, good. I have a sense of the questions. Let me do this before we get into the detail of some of these things. First, I think we should have an idea of the legal and regulatory frameworks, right? When I explain this, many of your questions will have been answered as well. So, when it comes to the legal and regulatory frameworks of blockchain in Nigeria specifically, this is what we are looking at. We are concerned about those laws or subsidiary legislation or directives by regulators, right? Relevant regulators across various sectors that touch on blockchain and by implication cryptocurrencies. In Nigeria, for a long time, we didn't have any specific regulation on blockchain technology or cryptocurrencies, none. What we had were the general legislation and regulation that apply to things around blockchain and cryptocurrencies. I will mention them shortly. First, you have to know about the Investments and Securities Act 2007. What lawyers call the ISA 2007. In the ISA 2007 is, of course, the law that has created or established the Securities and Exchange Commission in the country. That commission is empowered to regulate the capital markets, where we have investments, securities, derivatives, collective investment schemes, and all of that stuff. That's where that comes in. Why does ISA apply to blockchain and cryptocurrencies generally? It is because some use of blockchain could be said to be for the purpose of investments. And so they have securities future. Anything, any product or service that has a future, that promises returns or profits in the future, that makes you bring money commonly, into it. And then at some point, it will bring you some returns in terms of returns on investments. The Securities Exchange Commission will be concerned and will want to ensure that you are playing by the rules. The SEC has various rules, that have been made by virtue of the ESA 2007. There are various rules regulating various subsectors of the capital markets, from those who are into asset management to those who manage portfolios, even those who are into venture capital business, real estate, and all of that stuff. So you need to understand that ESA applies. The ESA was made way earlier, but there was a new ESA in 2007. And so you see that that ESA 2007, having been enacted a year before Bitcoin was introduced by Satoshi Nakamoto, it could not have contemplated that there would be anything like cryptocurrencies or blockchain. So the ESA does not specifically provide anything about blockchain or cryptocurrencies, but by implication, because it covers securities, investments, derivatives, which are areas where blockchain application in the financial sector for investment purposes cover, then of course, as a lawyer, you have to deductively understand that it will apply. And that's why, not surprisingly, in May 2002, this year, we had the Securities and Exchange Commission introduce a framework for the first time, a specific regulatory framework for digital assets service providers in the country, right? So that framework, which was introduced in May, specifically provided for a system of licensing, registration, under the laws. So today, if you run, say, for instance, an exchange, a cryptocurrency exchange like Binance, which is a very popular one, it means that, or Quidax, for those who might have been watching Big Brother Nigeria just a few weeks ago, Quidax was one of the sponsors. So that is a crypto exchange. For those kind of businesses, they are now under the regulation of the Securities and Exchange Commission in the country, right? But that is not the only part of the business regulated by the new rules of the ESA. I recollect that there are specifically 4 players that have been brought under regulation by the new rules by SEC. One, those who are offering what we call initial coin offerings, right? Or initial coin offerings, which means, if you understand how IPO works, initial public offering, whereby you are offering a certain product or service in exchange for, you're promising that, hey, bring your funds to me. At some point, this product is going to be worth so amount, and so we will be able to pay you back this in return. That's an investment scheme, right? So if you are going to the members of the public to raise funds that way, you need that initial coin offering in the blockchain and crypto space. So in 2017 precisely, which experts and analysts could call the ICO year, what we had was that rather than people going to the stock exchange to raise funds, what they did was just to launch, they will build a project, create a token or a coin, and then go to the members of the public directly over the internet and say that we are building this project. This project in 2024 will be able to get to millions of people out there. This is what the current value of the token or coin is, 0. blah, blah, blah dollars. By the time everyone gets on board in the next 1 year, it's going to become as much as $100. So if you buy, say, 1 million units today, you could become a billionaire in the next 1 year. And so there were many projects like that, ICOs, the SEC rules cover that. Secondly, the SEC rules cover what you call digital assets exchanges, DAX, DAX, in short. Now, what does that mean? It means that if you are a platform that allows people to trade or buy and sell cryptocurrencies or digital assets on your platform, then you're a DAX, you're a digital assets exchange, in which case you must come for a license, otherwise you'll be breaching the rules. There's also digital assets custodians. What does that mean? If you provide a service of serving as a digital assets custody provider, meaning you can help people keep their digital assets such as Bitcoin, stable coin like USDT and all of that. You provide security around that as a service, right? It means you have to go to the SEC to get a license for digital asset custodian. If you do not do that, you are breaching the rules. And then there's the general one, which is the fourth one, just says VASP. What does VASP mean? Virtual asset service providers. That's a general one. All of the guys I've mentioned so far are all VASP, but the SEC is saying that if you haven't fallen into any of these other ones, those are making initial or coin offerings, those offering digital assets exchange services as like crypto exchanges, or those who are providing custodian services, you are a virtual asset service provider, and you must still come for registration and license at the SEC, as long as you play in the capital markets. Who plays in the capital market? If you deal in investments and securities. So that's the SEC. The next big one you have to be concerned about is the CBN. So everyone knows today that the CBN does not regulate digital assets in the country. It also doesn't regulate cryptocurrencies. So as far as the central bank is concerned, cryptocurrencies are not recognized and they are not regulated in the banking and financial system. This is very important to note. In 2017, I think January precisely, the CBN could see that more Nigerians have started adopting cryptocurrencies, right, for all sorts of things. Some as a means of investment, some as a means of remittance, some as a means of even making payments locally on e-commerce platforms. So the CBN felt, hey, if you allow this happen, we might get into trouble. At the same time, let us not stifle innovation, because this is still 2017. It's only still coming up in Nigeria. Let's see where this is going. But meanwhile, so that we don't hurt the financial system, this is what we'll do. They sent a directive to all banks and financial institutions in the country saying, hey guys, henceforth, if you must provide banking services or financial services to anyone involved in cryptocurrencies, including crypto exchanges, please and please ensure that you conduct what is called KYC, know your customer compliance. Why? So that we know whom you guys are dealing with. So the KYC system is part of the regulatory regime or framework under the Money Laundering Act and the Terrorism Act as well. What it says simply is that you must be transparent with your transactions. So you must be able to drop your identity. If you're an individual, you're looking at things around dropping your national identity card or driver's license and all that. Drop your personal information or personal data, basically, so that should the EFCC, the central bank, the Nigerian police, and the rest of them be interested in investigating any particular transaction which is related to crypto, they will not be in the dark. They will see exactly who carried out the transaction and where and when and all that stuff, as long as you are using a centralized exchange. Now, That was pretty interesting because it did not disrupt anything. People continue to use cryptocurrencies because they were allowed to, right? Now, it got pretty, KYC means know your customer, know your customer. So eventually in 2018, precisely February 2018, exactly 1 year later, the CBN realized that, hey, these Nigerians will not stop using Bitcoin and the rest of them. We need to sound an alarm that we do not regulate this. And that happened. They sent a directive, not a directive to banks this time. It was a public notice saying Bitcoin, Ethereum, Ripple, and the rest of them are privately issued currencies that are not regulated by the central bank. The central bank then emphasized two things. One, Naira is the legal tender in Nigeria. So the legal tender in Nigeria is not Bitcoin. So people should use the Naira first. Secondly, it said that whoever gets involved in cryptocurrency transactions do so at his or her own risk. So this was CBN only just sounding the alarm and trying to get people to know that they don't issue Bitcoin and the rest of them. But they didn't stop it. Note this, they didn't stop it. Now, in 2021, that's about 2 years later, the central bank changed that and said, I think it's time we shut down the banking and financial system against all persons who are into cryptocurrencies. So in February, precisely February 5, 2021, the central bank sent a message or a directive to all banks and financial institutions in the country and non-financial institutions as well, that henceforth, we don't care. We don't even want you, all that stuff around KYC, forget about it. Right now, don't touch it. Don't touch crypto, don't touch cryptocurrency transactions, don't enable it. If you have anyone who does it, please close their bank accounts. So this was CBN going the extreme to shut out crypto completely from Nigeria's banking and financial system. Note what I said, from Nigeria's banking and financial system. Of course, you know, as lawyers and future lawyers, that Nigeria is not all about the banking and financial system. There are many other sectors outside banking and finance. So CBN basically restricted cryptocurrencies in the Nigerian banking and financial system, which it regulates. It did not stop cryptocurrency in the entire country. I'm saying this because back in my firm, we keep having issues around how, for instance, the Nigerian police and some other law enforcement agencies understand that directive. So they say, if you're a young guy and you have your phone and they find you somewhere on the road, they ask, hey, and let's check out your phone. And they see Binance app on your phone or Quidax app, you're in trouble. They tell you, hey, this is against the CBN ban. Why do you still have this? You get arrested, some of them get aroused and extorted and all that Nigerian story. So just to point it out, as a lawyer or to be lawyer, note that cryptocurrencies have not been banned in Nigeria. The only thing we have is a restriction only limited to the banking and financial system. In other words, if cryptocurrency transactions are happening outside that system, it is legitimate and there's nothing criminal about it, which is why we have what is called peer-to-peer markets or crypto market. That's P2P markets. P2P market means people getting into crypto transactions without any bank and all of them getting involved. That's P2P. And just to let you know, Nigeria is the biggest P2P market in the world, the biggest P2P market in the world. And we're even ahead of what's it called, Vietnam. According to the cryptanalysis reports in 2022, the very latest one this year, it says that Vietnam is the global leader when it comes to crypto adoption, the rate of crypto adoption. Yes, that's true. Nigeria was rated 11th in the world. That's if you look at it from the point of view of all crypto transactions. But when you look at it from a point of view of which country is having crypto transactions in the P2P space the most, Nigeria is the king there. We beat India, we beat China, we beat US, and Vietnam was just nowhere to be found, actually, when it comes to that aspect. So I'm letting us understand this and understand how huge the market, especially that crypto market, is in Nigeria, so that when we are in that place to determine how to approach it, whether as a regulator, whether as a policy advisor, whether as a lawyer, you have to understand the lines, right? You need to understand what is legitimate, what is legal, what is illegal, what is regulated, what is unregulated. You know, you need to understand these things. They are not all the same. When you understand these things, you'll be able to better manage your clients. Because as you know, and as you will find out in your various work, clients don't want to hear no. Today's clients don't want to hear no. If you are so innovative, you know, most of us, when we say we want to apply for a job, we say we are innovative, we are enterprising. It's so easy to write in the CV, but do you actually do those stuff, you know, outside the CV or outside the resume? So you need to be innovative. Just yesterday, a global crypto exchange contacted our firm, you know, to know how they can do business in Nigeria. Now that's interesting because you would expect that they already know that there's a restriction in Nigeria's banking and financial system. But that's the thing. You are the innovative lawyer. You're the one who is supposed to tell them how to navigate that in a legal way, not an illegal way. So that's where the innovation comes in. And that's where, you know, you also get your bills paid. So you need to understand the differences and distinctions so that you can navigate this for your clients and other interested parties well. So I think, you know, having said stuff around regulation from SEC angle and CBN angle, I must have already answered most of the questions I read out just now. And it might interest you to know this, you know, in March of this year, there was a group that was created by the CBN, the SEC, and the rest of them, including the EFCC, called the National Virtual Assets Group. The idea was to have the regulators sit with the industry players, the virtual asset service providers, VAPs, to ensure that there's a regulatory framework that VAPs can comply with. We met in Lagos and it was a very interesting conversation. They needed Nigeria to become compliant with the standards set by the Financial Action Task Force. Now, if you go on to play in the blockchain and crypto space, you need to understand both local and global players. The Financial Action Task Force, called the FATF, some people call it FATF, I like to call it FATF. They are the global body that monitors money laundering, terrorism financing, use of weapons of mass destruction and all that to ensure that the world is safer. And they did say that they have recommended, I think recommendation 49, that regulators, including central banks, reserve banks, SEC, all of these guys, should accommodate crypto, not by making them legal tender, but at least make sure that you have anti-money laundering and countering of financing terrorism compliance mechanisms in place. so that there will be transparency, accountability, and some integrity in the market. So this is what we've been driving as CBAN president, right? We have been driving this idea, but the CBN didn't think we were making a lot of sense. So eventually we were happy when the FATF came with its global weights and gave Nigeria a deadline. That deadline expired last month. It gave Nigeria a deadline till October 2022 to ensure that Nigeria has a regulatory framework that allows virtual asset service players in blockchain and crypto space to be able to get some kind of registration system going and report their transactions where suspicious to law enforcement agencies and the rest of them. I'm happy to let you know that led to the Money Laundering Act of 2022. We've always had a Money Laundering Act, thanks to the, I think, Olusegun Obasanjo administration, but it was this May or June that Nigeria introduced a new Money Laundering Act 2022. In that act, amongst other things that it introduced, it's accommodated virtual assets, right? If we understand what virtual assets means, you know, virtual assets is an all-encompassing word, right? It covers cryptocurrencies as well. So people call it crypto assets if they don't want to look for the CBN's trouble, right? Some people also call it virtual currencies or digital assets, digital currencies. So the use of the word or phrase, the virtual assets in Nigeria's new Money Laundering Act comes with implications. It defined virtual assets as a digital representation of value, which could be anything, and then said that that virtual asset service providers will also now be treated as financial institutions for the purpose of complying with the money laundering compliance mechanisms. That means that for every player in the virtual asset space, crypto, digital assets, virtual currency, mention them. It means that you will now be treated as a financial institution. And if you're a financial institution, you know the implications of that is that the banks and other financial institutions acts will now come in. It means that there are certain things that you will now need to comply with. But let me say this. It is for the purpose of complying with the money laundering requirements only. In other words, you cannot say that because Binance is now a financial institution, according to the Money Laundering Act 2022, Binance must now go and get a banking license because all financial institutions are blah, 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 not at all. It only says that Binance becomes a financial institution to the extent that Binance is now required to conduct KYC on all of their customers, whether they are individual or corporate customers. And this is something I know Binance already does. In 2019, Binance contacted our firm to help design an anti-money laundering and countering of terrorism financing framework for the purpose of expanding to the Nigerian market. This was about 3 years ago. And we helped Binance develop this. And we're happy that we haven't had problems with Binance using this KYC structure in the country. Since way before the Money Laundering Act 2022, most of these exchanges, from Binance to Luno to Quidax, Bitmama, Ninja Crypto, mention them, they have all been self-regulating. Let's note that word, self-regulating, from self-regulation. So rather than waiting for CBN and SEC to come into the market to make it a sane market to transact, these guys were already proactive by adopting certain self-regulatory mechanisms for themselves, including developing AML, CFT frameworks, right? So this is where we are with that. I think I've basically exhausted that part when it comes to regulatory framework. One thing I would like to point out is that a lot of this, also involves data, collection, data transfer, data processing, which now means, if you understand where I'm going to, you need to ensure that there is compliance with Nigeria, with the Nigerian Data Protection Regulation 2019, right? So that is also part of the regulatory framework for blockchain and cryptocurrency in the country. I know that the National Information Technology Development Agency, NITSDA, has been driving the idea of compliance with Nigeria's NDPR 2019. And just recently, I believe this year, the National Data Bureau, was also established to ensure that while NITSDA is trying to govern that entire information technology space, we have a data protection bureau that ensures that all of the players in the space that collect, process, transfer, and store people's personal data will need to comply with the requirements under the NDPR. As we speak, I think there's a deadline for November 24 or so for people who are, you call them data controllers, people who collect their personal data from data subjects, to ensure that they let the bureau know what they've been up to and how they secure personal data on their platforms. So this is something we should also be concerned about. Of course, the Terrorism Act also applies. I think Terrorism Act 2011, as amended, also applies, because over and over again, regulators keep saying that cryptocurrencies or digital assets are being used, or even NFTs, non-fungible tokens, are being used for money laundering and all of that stuff. So yes, we are also being told that terrorists are beginning to use cryptocurrencies to move money, across the world. Recently, it was found that Binance provided services, crypto exchange services in Iran, right? A country that is under US sanction over some activities, including terrorism. And it was found that about 8 billion US dollars, have been processed or traded in over the last couple of years using Binance Exchange. And that is really getting Binance a bit of regulatory heat outside the country, because that is not supposed to happen. Because most of the, based on research, many of the transactions in that jurisdiction may be linked with terrorists. So enabling crypto exchange services there comes with very considerable risk. So that's why it's important that we understand terrorism legislation, which in Nigeria is called the Terrorism Act 2011. It tries to stop people from getting involved in the financing of terrorism. The NFIU, including the governor of the CBN, Governor Emefiele, raised this issue before the National Assembly sometime in May or February last year, saying that there is some reports showing that certain groups might have used cryptocurrencies for the purpose of bringing money in and out of Nigeria for terrorism activities, right? So these are very sensitive information. I don't have the data, I don't have the reports, but this was one of the concerns raised by the Central Bank of Nigeria when it pulled the plug against the crypto and blockchain industry in 2021. So guys, these are stuff we need to really understand. Every day, there are local and foreign players who are interested in coming to the Nigerian crypto space, and they need regulatory guidance, they need legal and regulatory frameworks, they need you to set up their businesses in Nigeria if they feel they want to. From experience, many of them try to avoid that so that they don't get into more trouble. They try to do whatever they have to do from outside Nigeria while targeting the Nigerian markets, which of course the Finance Act 2020, which was introduced by the Buhari government, will apply. What is the Finance Act? It's basically saying that, hey, if you have significant economic presence in Nigeria, although you are not established in Nigeria, but you are targeting Nigerian consumers or users, you will be required to pay some level of tax to the Nigerian state or the government so that Nigeria is not losing. So that Finance Act may apply if you're working or if you're advising any clients who is in the crypto space but doesn't have a registered entity in Nigeria, right? So that's something we need to look at. Of course, look at things around tax as well. I'm not aware that Nigeria has a tax law on crypto or on digital assets. We don't. There's nothing like that. And I remember speaking with a very senior person in the Federal Inland Revenue Service, FIRS, in Abuja recently. And I wondered, I asked him, are we going to be seeing taxation of virtual asset service providers in the country soon? And the response was, and please do not quote me, the response was, Senator, we are looking at that area, we're researching deeply, we've been involved in many international trainings where we talk about how to tax crypto transactions in the country. But one thing that is holding us back is the central bank's stance on crypto and digital assets. As soon as the central bank gets its act together in that area, they are ready to pounce. So we should expect that we might be having taxation of crypto assets or digital assets in the country. But this is not to say that we don't already have FIRS on the neck of some of the players in the space. By virtue of my office as president of the Nigerian Blockchain Association, CBAN, I have received several reports by players in the space saying that they have received the letters from the FIRS about whether they are compliant with Nigeria's tax laws. FIRS did not point out or say that they were paralyzed or they were restricted from getting involved in taxation of crypto related income. They went straight to say that let's see your VAT compliance, let's see your certificates, let's see what you've been doing. If they find that you've not been paying, you will be found to, they might just charge you for tax evasion. And then, of course, that whole thing goes to court. I know this as well because my firm is handling a matter currently involving this with one of the exchanges in the country. So, and I know that there are also some other exchanges who have received, such love letters from the FIRS, but none has gone to court, of course. This is still at preliminary stage of. We are informing you that this is our assessment. Let us know what your response is. So, guys, it's an interesting market. It keeps evolving, and let me say this: one of the biggest benefits of playing in the blockchain and crypto space is that you will learn stuff at the speed of light. Like, no one is going to give you any exam or buy exams to do, but you will find yourself having to learn a whole lot of stuff. So you have to be ready to do a lot of learning, unlearning, and relearning in the space. As you will find from all that I've said right now, blockchain technology is not all just about blockchain technology. It has a lot that cuts across various laws. You know, you have to be very good with your corporate law. You have to be very good with your criminal law. You have to be very good with your tax laws as well. Talk about your capital market laws. You know, you have to be good at that too. You have to be good at data protection and privacy. You have to be good at even litigation. Some of our cases have gone to court, you know, over one thing or the other. So you need to be a multidisciplinary lawyer, someone who is deep in the highs, but also strong with the T's. That is what is needed. So at this point, I can revisit the question and answer session and see what might be left hanging after what I would like to imagine has been a comprehensive cover of the legal and regulatory frameworks of blockchain and cryptocurrencies in Nigeria. So I'll just take a bit of a few seconds to go through some of the questions here, if you permit me. Okay. Okay, so someone is asking here, please, sir, how do I digitize a value? For example, a book, if it is digitized to an ebook, how can it progress to digitalization like Momo? Interesting question. It looks like Esther would like to be an entrepreneur after this call. So that's an interesting question. As lawyers or future lawyers, one of the good things or good skills we must have is being able to ask questions. There are no stupid questions. I recall we had a meeting with the clients recently, a very knowledgeable clients, very sophisticated. And so we weren't pretending to be, you know how we like to say, we are learned, while others are not learned, they are just knowledgeable. So we didn't pretend to know it all. You know, we had to give what my former boss, Chino Asuzu, calls professional deference. Professional deference is when you acknowledge that someone is very good in his or her own area, while you maintain some bit of humility rather than shouting or talking all over the place. So why have I said this before answering this question? It's good to ask questions. And in our clients' meetings, the clients find that just the way they are asking us questions, we are also asking them questions. Because what we have found by experience is that most times, up to 40% of our work or the work that we do for our clients are not law. They are not law. So that means you need to understand your client's business, right? You need to understand it. So Esther asking, how do you digitalize value? That's a very good question, because by the time I answer that question, you would have perhaps learned how to, create your own blockchain startup itself. Well, I'll try to be as short as possible. So I like that you capture the idea of value, first of all, because in my definition or explanation of what blockchain is, I did say that anything of value can come in. Book here is, if it's a physical one, like the one I have here, right? This book here is a physical book. So this is a tangible asset. This is tangible. It becomes intangible when, for instance, I talk about my copyright in the book. So for instance, if I design this logo here, it means that I have a copyright in this. That is an intangible one because you can't see my copyrights. If you've met anyone who can see his or her copyright in a work, please let me know so that we can refer the person to the nearest Yaba psychiatric hospital. So it's intangible. So when it comes to digitalizing anything or digitizing, let me take it from this level. From physical to electronic is digitized. So you've moved it from paper to paperless. That's digitization. Now, when you talk about digitalization, that's another level. It means that you're not just turning something to electronic. That means you also might want to look at the business around that, which takes us very, very straight to digital representation of value in the blockchain space, tokenization. So tokenization is the word that you would like to use there, not digitize or digitalize. Now, how do you tokenize this book? And what is tokenization? In blockchain, there are several concepts you must understand. One is decentralization. Second, tokenization. Third, smart contracts. Now, under tokenization, if anyone has heard about tokens, perhaps it's because you have a MasterCard, a GT Bank or First Bank MasterCard, whatever. You have these, I see if I have my own card here. Okay, yeah. So this right here, see these numbers right here? Yeah, they are tokens. These are tokens. It's known as tokens. For those who have studied information security, this is token. Information security tells us that you can protect a information by using tokens to, unveil the very important information behind the veil. This number you're seeing there, it's token, it's a veil. It's not the real thing. The real thing is the money I own in this card. That's the real thing. So in information security, you are going to be tokenizing my sensitive data just so the bank can run this across its own payment system and enable me to make a payment, right? It needs to expose my financial data in an encrypted way, in a way that no one can see what is in there, right? So these figures you see here by MasterCard, they are tokens. Now, that's information security token. I've gone there so that we can take it from what you can see and understand to the next level. Now, in blockchain, when you talk about tokenization, it's exactly the same thing. You are encrypting sensitive information or sensitive data in a way that people basically just see alphanumeric stuff. That's why if you own a Bitcoin address today or a address or any crypto address, you find this alphanumeric stuff, right? A, 1, 2, 3, A by A, B, Z, Z, down like that, long one. Those are tokens. It's hiding something that is much more important than sensitive underneath, which is your money or whatever it is. So in blockchain, when we say we are tokenizing something, it means that we are now converting a physical asset into a digital asset, right? In a way that you can still enjoy all of the benefits that comes from it, as if it were physical. So before blockchain, there's no way I won't talk about non-fungible token. Before blockchain, what we have is this. I buy Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart for, say, £10 online. I download it as an electronic copy, not digitized copy, electronic copy of it. I go to my WhatsApp group, which has about 250 members or more these days. And what do? I say, guys, have you read Chinua Achebe's Things Fall Apart? Of course. So I drop it in there. Check it out. You can read it this Christmas. What have I done? I have sent to 250 people one copy of digital of Chinua Achebe's work. But guess what? Every person in that group has two. Of course, if they are 250, it means each of them now has this copy. That's 250, right? That is the problem of Internet 2.0 as we know it today. So when I did my research work, right, my thesis back in the university, I focused on copyright infringements. And one of the stuff I did say was that the Internet, as we know it today, has caused a lot of problems for copyright infringements. Why? Because with the Internet, you can easily duplicate anything. So you buy one thing, just a copy. Chinua Achebe is getting only, or the estate is getting only £10. Yet I have distributed this stuff amongst 250 people who ordinarily should have bought that book £10 each. So you see how copyright infringement is happening. In a blockchain world, that will not happen. How? Because with blockchain, you are digitizing, not just turning it into soft copy. No. What happens is, in a blockchain world, if things fall apart were to be protected by blockchain, what will happen is, if I have access to it and I pay for it, the moment I pay for it, right, and then I try to share it across other platforms, it won't happen. It will only happen if all of you whom I'm sharing it with are already connected to a blockchain where automatically, by way of smart contracts, your wallets, each of your wallets will be deducted. Immediately you have a copy of that book. I don't have to make it happen. It's smart contracts. So that's why the royalty payment system is being disrupted today by means of blockchain. The World Intellectual is already looking at how to better manage information, better manage intellectual property, right? In order to ensure that with the blockchain, authors can easily trace wherever their work is being distributed and automatically get their royalty without anyone chasing anybody or without anyone having to go to court. So that's that. So in the process of digitizing anything, right, you turn into paper into paperless. But in blockchain is beyond that. You're also saying that all the rights that you have in the physical stuff, we are writing everything into this and storing it as a data and then encrypting it using what is called cryptography. Cryptography is from kryptos. Kryptos is a Greek word which means eating. Eating, that's what it means. So the idea is to hide sensitive information and then give you a kind of veil. And then with that veil, you can go around, do anything about what you want. But underneath, things are happening. Non-fungible tokens is disrupting the space today because it's when you talk about fungibility, fungible, it means that something is tradable for the other. If I have 10 naira or 100 naira notes and I exchange it with your own 100 naira notes, you wouldn't mind because it's the same thing. But that can't happen with non-fungible tokens. Non-fungible means they are non-tradable. They are non-interchangeable. You can't change them, right? Because one is unique in itself, right? That's why many authors, whether you're a musician, whether you are a content writer, whatever you are, as long as you create content, you will find NFTs extremely important because with NFTs, what it means is that no one can duplicate your work, right, without you getting incentives or royalty from that work. So if you apply NFTs to songs, to movies, to books, where you find that people will be able to protect their intellectual property more. Forget about all of those hype about NFTs and all that we see. The real application of the NFTs, I believe, will be in helping to manage intellectual property or intangible assets. And that's why I think that NFTs have a lot of roles to play in sports, entertainment, and arts industry, more than any other industry, right? Other applications of the NFTs right now are just experimental. So you guys have to get ready for work, because apart from your legal work, you'll find yourself doing a lot of administrative work, a lot of advocacy work as well. Just like Deborah at Hilton Top Solicitors have been doing as well. You have to learn to be ecosystem players or ecosystem drivers. You know, there are very few lawyers in Nigeria that are ecosystem builders. These are guys who, rather than waiting to milk a cow that is already malnourished, these guys feed the cow. You know, they use their resources, they feed that cow. By the time that cow is well fed, then the milk can go around for everyone. There are certain people who play like that in every space. So sometimes if you find yourself in a space that is just evolving, right, you have to learn as well to see whether you could, you know, feed the cow a bit. You could feed it for 2, 5, 10 years, you know, but just know that that's what life is. You have to learn. There's a time to learn, and there's a time to, you know, also reap immediately from what you've learned. So I think I'm mixing most of this stuff with practical tips. I guess that's how it works, because this is what how I also approach my legal practice every day. All right. So that's been a long answer to what looks like a short question. So you said May 22, the SEC introduced a framework for digital. I didn't get it well. Okay, so the SEC introduced a framework for digital assets in Nigeria in May 2022, right? I think it's called the Digital Assets Offering. I can't remember the exact framework, but just Google the SEC rules on digital assets in Nigeria. It's very, very available. I'm sure Deborah as well will be able to share that, a copy of that regulation with you. Next off here says, I joined a bit late. Please, aside the regulatory framework of the Central Bank of Nigeria, in which a directive was made to restrict cryptocurrencies in Nigerian banking and financial system, is there any other regulation? Okay. All right, so any other regulation from the Central Bank, SEC rules, Chimoke, SEC rules, Securities and Exchange Commission. So the digital assets, let me see. So that question that you asked, as far as the Central Bank of Nigeria is concerned, there is no other regulation, no other. As far as Central Bank of Nigeria is concerned, none, no other. So just know that the Central Bank, through the Nigerian Financial Intelligence Units, NFIU, looks at compliance with the Money Laundering Act, as well as the Terrorism Act. That's what I was saying. So these are not strictly within the Central Bank of Nigeria. All right, cool. Next off here, Chidima Emma DK, Trust Wallet seems to be a digital asset custodian, but is it also recognized as a financial institution, and does it also comply with the new Money Laundering Act? Interesting. So I wonder if Chidima has some crypto in Trust Wallets. Hopefully you didn't buy FTT, you won't buy FTX. Otherwise, maybe you wouldn't have been able to make it to this program or talk. So first of all, for those who don't understand what Trust Wallet means, Trust Wallet is a wallet that is described as a decentralized exchange, a decentralized exchange or decentralized wallet. What does that mean? It means that there is no Trust Wallet CEO. There is no Trust Wallet customer service provider. There is no Trust Wallet anything. There is no company called Trust Wallet in any corporate registry in the world, right? They are not registered anywhere. Trust Wallet is a software that has been built by certain developers to ensure that people can carry out crypto exchange wherever they are without the need to even have KYC. So if you go to Trust Wallet, which is available on your Play Store or Apple Store, if you go to Trust Wallet and download it right now, you'll be able to create your account instantly without Trust Wallet even asking who you are. You won't even drop a name. It doesn't need your name, it doesn't need your ID, it doesn't collect any of those. That's a Trust Wallet, that's Trust Wallet. So it does not comply with Money Laundering Act and all that stuff, right? It is not a digital asset custodian, just to be sure that is clear. It's not also that. A digital asset custodian helps you to store your digital currencies, Bitcoin and the rest of them as a service, right? You could call even some of the crypto exchanges, for instance, Quidax, right? You may be surprised that Quidax might be using a third-party service provider to ensure that your Bitcoin and all of that is safe, right? They may not be the custodian. They may just be the wallets where you keep your what. They are not the ones securing it, right? So a custodian is different from an exchange. It's rare for you to find the market is very advanced, and we found that there are players now who are custodians, right, that work with exchanges. So Trust Wallet is not a financial institution. It is seen as a decentralized exchange. According to the FATF, Financial Action Task Force, decentralized exchanges do not come under the traditional regulation because they are not entities. There's no CEO, there's no data protection officer, there's no compliance officer, nothing. It's just a software that runs on itself, but it is built on the blockchain, right? So it can carry out your transactions anytime you command it, but it doesn't store anything for you. And one of the things about Trust Wallet, as it is a decentralized exchange, is that it doesn't also control or hold your money or crypto assets for you. This is the opposite of centralized exchanges. A centralized exchange like Binance, Quidax, FTX, all those guys usually store your stuff for you. And they only need you to create a password, which only you will remember. Any day you forget that password, you can easily activate a password recovery system, and then you'll be back there. But that can happen with Trust Wallet. If you lose your password on Trust Wallet and you do not remember what is called your recovery phrase or your private keys, your money is gone for life. It's gone forever. We did a case recently where a user of an exchange tried to make some funny moves by stealing from the exchange. He did succeed to some extent, but thanks to blockchain, all of his transactions, as soon as he took money off the exchange and moved the monies to other exchanges, we could track using a crypto analysis tool. We could track all the places the monies went to, the very day, the second, the minute, all that happened. We could see all the wallet addresses that received all of the money. And we could see all of the banks that they were trying to, offload or cash out the money to. So what they did, the person stole thousands of dollars that way. And in the course of, when we caught him, of course, when we had law enforcement trace and catch the guy told us that, okay, I'll refund this. I'm sorry, I have about $13,000 in my trust wallet. And right now, I'm sorry, I can't remember the password and I don't have access to the recovery phrase because I lost my phone, which is where the recovery phrase is. $13,000 in his trust wallets. Interpol was involved in that investigations, and Interpol said, if you have to call your village people or a herbalist, better do so. If you have to call your pastor, imam, better do so now because we will not allow you to go with this $13,000. Eventually, he never remembered it, right? He never did till date. So that money, $13,000, right, is just still there in the trust wallet. He can't access it. I can't access it. Interpol can't access it. EFCC can't access it. Even if you wake Satoshi Nakamoto, whether it's a he, a she, or a group, he, she, or they can't also access it. That money is gone forever. So please, anyone who wants to use a trust wallet or any decentralized exchange, be extremely careful. A trust wallet means that you are your own bank. You are your own securities officer. You are your own compliance officer. You are your own everything. So whatever happens, you are 100% responsible. That's what it means. That's why, according to all the reports I have, yes, Deborah.
No, sorry, go ahead. I'm not saying anything.
Okay, yeah. That's why, according to the reports we have today in the global crypto space, more than 90% of crypto users still use centralized exchanges like Binance, Quidax, Bitmama, and the rest of them. Why? Because you need to be a bit well advanced to understand how to manage your own digital assets. It means that you're your own custodian, you're your own everything. That's not an easy thing to manage. There are very few people who do that. Less than, as a matter of fact, according to CZ is the CEO of Binance, he said up to 99% of users in the crypto space presently don't, still rely on centralized exchanges. But the reports I read, told me at least up to 90%, right? So you have to be very careful with trust wallets. I hope that breaks that down. And the idea of decentralization is what trust wallet is all about. So decentralization is we don't need a central authority. We want a decentralized peer-to-peer system that gives you control over how you transact and carry out data. So trust wallet used to be created by, it was created by someone or some group, but Binance, acquired trust wallets some time back, but Binance never touched it. It allowed it to remain independent from itself, so that's what trust wallet is about. So be very careful with these decentralized exchanges. If you don't understand how they work, please feel free to speak with Deborah about it so that you don't get your fingers burned. Quickly, I had to attend to that question very well because it opened a whole lot of stuff around compliance regarding decentralized exchanges. Even the FATF is still struggling with it today. At some point, the FATF said, hey, we don't care if it is decentralized, as long as somebody built it and dropped it from thin air. That person who built it has to be regulated. That person has to be answerable to us. That's what FATF was saying. But the crypto industry, as young as it is just about 14 years old. The crypto industry is also growing up fast. And I remember the crypto industry to respond to that by advocating that it would be most unfair and it's not consistent with law for a software developer, all right, of a platform to be held responsible for what happens on the software. So this is where the idea of open source comes in. So it's an open source thing. It's an open source technology. So whoever built it made it open, meaning anyone can use it, anyone can also fork it. Fork it is spelled F-O-R-K, which means that you can create your own application, by just duplicating that and then maybe carrying out a bit of improvement or changes on it. So that's a fork. So in crypto, if you hear Ethereum was forked by Ethereum Classic, that means that those who built Ethereum Classic, had to duplicate the Ethereum platform. If you hear Bitcoin fork, like Bitcoin Gold, there are various Bitcoins out there, but the real Bitcoin is simply called Bitcoin. But there are other Bitcoins like Bitcoin Satoshi, Vision, BSV, Bitcoin Gold, which believes that Bitcoin shouldn't be a cash system. It should be just for investment purposes. That's what Bitcoin Gold is about. That's a fork of Bitcoin. So do not think when I talk about fork, it's about your dining table or stuff in the bedroom. So the next stuff here is taxation of, no, let me see this. My question is, in view of the recent legislation with regards to digital assets, what steps can a person who has been accused of illegally taking part in cryptocurrency activities by a security agent take? Okay, so this is kind of broad, right? It's not specific, it's pretty broad. There are many things involved in this, but what I can say to you right now is, when it comes to taking part in crypto activities, we have to be sure to distinguish between taking part in a crypto activity that is acceptable or taking part in a crypto activity that is illegal or illicit. Now, to determine what is illegal, it depends on where you are. If you're in China, for instance, taking part in a crypto activity is illegal because the Chinese government has banned crypto. It has banned it. So you have to be careful. In Nigeria, we have a ban that is only restricted to the banking and financial system. There is no ban outside that. So if you're involved in crypto outside the banking system, you're good to go. So, but for those who may be involved in illicit transactions that involves crypto, such as you are doing some money laundering activities or terrorism financing, or even getting involved in Ponzi schemes, promotion, all of these bogus investment schemes everywhere that is meant to defraud people, then yes, you are gonna be in trouble or find yourself in trouble soon. What steps to take can such a person take? If you're involved in crypto activities that are illegal, I can imagine that the steps you need to take would be for you to be born again, first of all. Repent for what you're doing. Before you see your lawyer, you want to see your pastor first or the imam. But if you are the lawyer that someone has consulted for help, I imagine that you should try to, first of all, know the extent of criminality, right? Are we looking at an investment scheme that was meant to defraud people? If it is that, the EFCC will be certainly, interested, or the Nigerian police. As a lawyer whom someone has come to, perhaps confidentially, to say that, that we have rules of professional conduct about certain things you have to keep as an attorney-client and privilege, or also things you must say, you must disclose, because there's an illegality going on. We're supposed to be ministers in the temple of justice, within and outside. So just ensure that you are playing according to ethics. You don't want to be seen to be involved or to be protecting a criminal, right? So just advise the person on, what the implications are under the applicable laws, whether it's the EFCC Act, whether it's the Criminal Procedure Act, or what other applicable legislations. And you should be able to take steps to, have that dealt with. I imagine that all of the victims of this person will be coming soon if they are not already there. Now, one of the things that some of our clients do is they don't tell you that they are already in trouble. They make it look like they are only just trying to be careful or be cautious. Whereas guys are already banging on their doors and chasing them for their money. So you need to conduct a very thorough interview. Don't take any word for it. Try to confirm what's going on before you do your advice. And in such situation, please, just so that you can minimize your risk, please ensure that your advice is written, a legal opinion, that the person should pay for, charge, and let the person know your professional, stance. In there, putting all the risk that is also involved. You never know where or might be flying to. Before someone says that you guys must have heard about the story, recently, this year, about how a very senior lawyer in a very well-known firm, was accused of getting involved in soliciting, and promising that, Senator Ihenya has control of the entire Nigerian legal system. As a matter of fact, Supreme Court judges and Court of Appeal judges are all under me. Therefore, if we do this case for you, be rest assured that we'll get you results, whatever that means, right? So you have to be careful, because your letter could end up on social media. And I'll be, I won't say, because we met here at Hilton Top Solicitors virtual program, I will not expose you as well. So that's that. Yes, this one says, on taxation of the crypto space, you said there is no taxing system for these players, but you mentioned something about the FIRS checking if crypto players evaded. If they're having laws mandating them to pay taxes, why is tax evasion coming to? Confused? I'm not sure if I got your explanation on that. Thanks for asking this. So yes, there's some seeming inconsistency or contradiction with this. That's not from me, really, it's from the system. So yes, there is no tax law or tax regime in Nigeria that specifically talks about or requires that crypto companies or crypto service providers should pay tax, right? But I was saying that outside the regulatory framework, I am aware that in practice, this is what the FX and to some extent the NFIU is doing in the Nigerian crypto space. So I'm just saying that beyond what is in the books, beyond what we see under our laws, there is actually some what's it called now? Some efforts being made by the FIRS to ensure that taxes are being paid whether you are involved in crypto or not, right? We are handling one currently, so I can tell you that it's live. Can we bring up an argument and say, because there is no specific, let's note this, there is no specific tax regulation for crypto, my clients will not be liable? That's a good question to ask. And perhaps maybe a court of law would be in a better position to answer it. But because we're still at the very preliminary stage of this, we haven't seen reasons to approach the court on this. Because if we were to look at the laws specifically, it would seem that my clients are not liable. But again, law and court issues is all about interpretation. It is possible, and as lawyers, we have to be open to these arguments as well. It's possible for the FIRS to argue that yes, indeed, there is no specific legislation under the Companies and Allied Matters Act, the Personal Income Tax Act, the the Value Added Act, and all that, VAT, all those stuff. You can argue that, hey guys, the fact that it wasn't specifically stated doesn't mean that you can do business in Nigeria, make income, and not be liable to pay tax. All of these laws are neutral to technological innovations. It was there a time that the FIRS Act or the laws or the VAT Act say that telecom service providers will pay tax? No. Is there any time they said that if you're a fintech, you pay tax? No. It's just understood that as long as you're an entity making money, getting income by any business which is legal or legitimate in the country, you should pay tax. So that's a compelling argument that anyone could make, and you could convince a court. So I don't know what you think, but in law we don't like to look at, and we should not. No one should ever look at one side of the coin. People say that there are two sides of the coin. I even think there are three sides to it. There's that side, and there's the head. So you need to know these things. You need to be prepared and weigh your chances. And sometimes you have to dissociate yourself, right, from a scene that involves your clients and the tax authorities. You have to take your ego out of it. I could as well say, I'm Senator Hen, and this, I'm the MBA, I'm the president of the Nigerian Bar Association. I'll make sure I fight this to the hand. I'll make sure I get you justice, that kind of spirit. And then I go to courts, and before you know it, my clients are slammed with something even worse. So we need to be careful as well. We are business lawyers. We don't see risk on our clients' part right now because we're still having just a conversation with the tax authorities. They have not also made any allegations. It was actually the NFIU. Now listen to this. It was the NFIU, all right, that submitted the name of our clients to the FIRS. They say, we see these guys in the crypto space. They seem to be making a lot of income. Please check to be sure that they are tax compliant. If they are not, let us know so that we can advise on how you can, draw charges on tax evasion. So you see that these things are connected. These are stuff we experience in the field, right? So these are not theoretical talk. It's basically what is happening out there. So I hope my answer, helps you with that question you asked, right? I don't want to leave anyone here with any confusion, avoidable confusion like that. Okay. All right, thanks, Chiroke, I'm glad. Okay, the next question I see here is from Sondu. Okay, same person, I guess. as a lawyer, how do I get to know much more about blockchain? Am I to take course, learn from the internet, etc.? I mean, I'm probably not the best person to ask this question, although I play in the blockchain space and I visibly appear to a lot, but I am not your conventional lawyer. So I wouldn't want to say what works for me would work for you. One of the things I always tell lawyers, both young, old, and future lawyers, is that strategy should depend on who you are. No, there is no one person that is exactly like someone else. No one. So whenever anyone, I'm usually careful because I'm conscious that I am very different from you and you are very different from the other person. So what works for me may not work for you, right? We could have general recommendations. Let's call it general, but it's not an ABC thing. It's not a rule. So how do you learn more about blockchain? Let me tell you how I learned about blockchain. I've never attended any university to learn blockchain. I don't have a master's in blockchain emerging technologies. My certification in this area is pretty limited, right? I am 99% self-learner. I am, and that's how I understand myself. I learn many things on my own, and I learn better by doing. I don't learn, keep learning, and just learning. No, I do a lot of what I learn, and by doing what I learn a whole lot more than wherever I learned from. So if I picked up your book on blockchain technology, by the time I'm through with that book, and I'm applying whatever I need to apply, by the time I'm done, I will have more insights than even the author. And I might want to, even disagree with some of the things the author said. So that's me, that's just classic me. So how best do I learn? I learn we're in a world of open universities. You guys know that there's nothing right now, no knowledge out there that you want that is not available on the internet. These days, even MIT and some other universities, Harvard, are opening up to the outside world. Anyone can access anything. But if you want some expert guidance, yes, you can go for a course, pay thousands of dollars and get in. Yeah. If you want some certification, yes, too. But my approach, like I always tell my associates in my firm and my partner as well, we have a continuing professional development program where every quarter you enroll for a course. They've done many courses, get certifications. But I always tell them that do not go for these things for certification alone. You have to go for it for knowledge. And for me, how I've grown over the years is that before I even go for any certification, I already know so much about that stuff. So I'm just only going for that class because perhaps I need a certification or I just want to validate my learning or know what the other side is thinking. So it's not like I go for a data protection and privacy course today and I don't know much about it, or I know 10%, or I know 20%. I probably already know up to 75% of that course, but I still want to go in there and share experience, and stuff. So that's my own approach to learning. I'm not a certificate-oriented person. If you follow my profile, you will not find academic qualifications here and there. This is not to say that you shouldn't go for your academic qualifications. As I said, this is me. Very soon I'll be going for a master's That, why am I going for a master's after over 10 years of stepping out of school? Because very early, in life, I realized that I didn't just want to do stuff because everyone is doing it. I want to do stuff because I want to create some value. So if I'd gone for a master's when I left the University of Benin, trust me, I would have done a master's in intellectual property. I would have done a master's around maybe just something around all that, because I started out as an IP lawyer. But see now, 10 years time, would I have gone for IP? No, I wouldn't have. I would have asked myself, why would I go for IP? Now, what has influenced my choice of the master's program I want to go for is because of all of the experiences I've gathered in the markets, in the field, talking with clients, both local and global, foreign clients, indigenous clients, everywhere about stuff. I now know exactly what I want to do and what I need. So that's me. I'm not saying wait for 10 years before you go for masters. I have associates, I have partners who have already done masters. So I'm not saying don't go there. This is just me. So guy, if you want to learn about blockchain, right, know yourself, first of all, whether you have the discipline to be a self-learner. If you don't have that discipline, please go for certification courses, because those courses will discipline you to stay the course. I don't know if you've seen the latest reports from Coursera, EDX, some of these online classes everywhere. There is reports that over 90% of people who start those courses don't finish them. Why? One, maybe because it's free. Two, there's no time. So we are in an age where you call the age of abundance. That's what I call it. In the information age, information was so much value that people put money to it and they made a lot of money. Now there's information overflow. So information is becoming less valuable. So it's no longer knowledge, or it's no longer information. It's now about what are you doing with information. So that's why some time ago, I remember speaking with a Bowen class in 2016. And I told them that in this age, I don't think we're in an information age any longer. I call it the conceptual age. The conceptual age. Some experts call it the age of imagination. Some people call it the age of design. What does that mean? It means that you will be valued not for having access to information or gathering information. You'll be valued for having the imaginative skill to be able to transform information into something more valuable. That is the age of I call it the conceptual age. So that's where I play. I don't play in that. I've left the information age behind many, many years ago. So places you could learn blockchain, edx.com is very helpful. Places like Coursera, you have both paid and free courses right there. I also know that the University of Nicosia, which is based in Cyprus, has a blockchain and digital currency master's program. It's an MSc, it's not just law, it's MSc. It has a master's program in that area. And in 2019, when the University of Nicosia was trying to get players or students from Nigeria, they reached out to CBAN, the Nigerian Blockchain Association. And we had a very fantastic partnership, whereby rather than paying 100% of the fees, which was back then up to about £14,000 or dollars, I can't remember, we were able to beat it down to just about $6,000. and you could pay half of, and if you pay half of your school fees in Bitcoin, you will get a further, discounts and all that stuff. They wanted me to get on the master's program. This was just 2019. And yet, I didn't think I was ready for a master's program in blockchain. So I didn't go for it. Some of our members in CBAN, they went into it. Today, they are masters, they have masters in blockchain. Hi, who is the president who, who negotiated the whole thing? I didn't still go in because I didn't think I was ready for it. I didn't want to go do a master's, just asking all the questions based on, from a point of view of ignorance. I needed to get prepared for that master's program, so that when I go in there, it's really a master's program for me, because masters will be in the room, not just students. So that, I think, for me personally, that's how I understand master's program. You're not going in there as an ignoramus. You're going in there based on the experience you have gathered in the field. And just to let you know, for someone like me who has been in the space, there is a further discount. So probably, maybe I also am getting ready for a 0% school fees by the year 2060. So that's the, I hope I've been able to answer your question to some extent. It's a difficult question for people like me. If you ask others, maybe it should be simpler. But for me, that's how I can answer that. So be self-driven, know yourself. You remember what they say, know yourself. Do your SWOT analysis. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are the opportunities and the threats? If you don't know your strengths, I can assure you, you will never know or see the opportunities. If you do not know your weaknesses, you will never see the threats until they kill you. So I call it the internal matrix and external matrix. Internal matrix is your strengths and opportunity and weaknesses. External matrix are the opportunities and threats. If you don't know where you stand as from your area, from the point of view of strengths or weaknesses, you can never leverage any opportunity. Opportunities will just be passing you by, and you'll be thinking about Canadian visa. Opportunities will be here in Lagos or Ibadan or Kano, passing you, and you won't see it because you don't even know your strengths. You've been working or functioning from an area of weaknesses. And so all you see around you are threats. How do we japa? Of course you can japa, and you should japa if you have to. Japa is good because japa ensures that you are also building yourself to come back to fight another day. So you may not be able to face, Nigeria is a war zone. Many people don't realize that Nigeria is at war. It's a war zone, economically, spiritually, culturally, in every way, financially, we're in a war zone. So if you can take that trip to any other country and make yourself more useful, perhaps when you come back, you can help some of us who couldn't japa or who are not going to japa anytime soon. So it's all the same thing. We are in a very fantastic country. Nigeria is the most fascinating country in the world. The reason why we are where we are today is because the Nigerian has not been unleashed yet. We are just what some people call a geographical expression. The Nigerian in us is not yet manifesting. When that manifests, we could easily overtake the US in 2 decades. We could overtake. So that's how fantastic we are in terms of potentials, right? So we're basically just fighting ourselves, and we're not focusing on the gold we are sitting on. When we do, we'll realize that what we do not see, others already see from outside. And that's why they will not allow, some of these guys will not allow Nigeria to get it right, even if we wanted to. So maybe 2023 is a good opportunity to take the country back wherever we come from, whether you are Yoruba, Hausa, Igbo, Kanuri, or whatever. Let's just do what's right and secure the future. I believe in this country a lot. This is basically the most powerful Black nation on earth. And it can easily be one of the most powerful countries in the world if we stopped focusing on the negatives and just do what we have to do. So you mentioned being an ecosystem builder. Wow. Can you share more light on that? Okay, it's already 2:10. Let me take permission from Deborah first, because I see that it's already 2:10.
Thank you so much, Senator. I just see that the questions keep rolling in. We've spent far more than the time, and the interns are even leaving already. We have 46 from 80 that we had earlier. Some are complaining batteries. Yeah. Wow. So some are complaining batteries are dead and the rest of it. So probably we can just round up with that. And then, I mean, it's been a very, very insightful session. And like you said earlier, we don't want to leave any one of them confused with the questions that they bring in. So that's why we're leaving in more room for you to be able to attend to, and because it's been really, really expository to them and to every one of us here. But of course, we have to also have a consideration for those who are probably feeling they're missing out now, and then to be able to meet up with other plans. But it's been really great. I mean, I could spend my whole day here on that this today. It's great what you're doing here. So if you can just round up with the last questions and then the advice moving forward for them.
All right, thank you very much. So I think everyone here.
Yes, like the two questions that are remaining, we can just round up with those ones, and then maybe the advice you can give them. Yeah.
Okay, what two questions, if you could assist me, please?
Okay, thank you. Let me look through. You are about answering the ecosystem builder, and then we have recognize should do a promotion. Oh, wow. Just okay, I think it's just that one, and then the question on promotion of digital assets, and I think that's all. Then the next thing is just to give the final advice for the last question.
All right, so the first one, very quickly, I'll go with shorter answers this time. The first one, how to be an ecosystem builder, right? When it comes to being an ecosystem builder, it comes with a lot of responsibilities. You don't just want to be an ecosystem builder for being sake. It's something that comes out of necessity. For instance, you find yourself in a space where there are no pioneers. There's no existing markets, right? Blockchain and crypto space currently, you would say from a legal practice point of view, there seems to be, or at least a few years back, there were no players in that space. So what you want to do is, rather than wait until regulation comes before you get involved, you can build the blockchain and crypto ecosystem in Nigeria. For me, how I did that was seeing that the regulations weren't there and the businesses weren't well facilitated. We thought about having an association that promotes blockchain adoption, promotes blockchain policies and regulations as well, and then promotes awareness and education. So when I've been in that space for quite some time, and I started as a legal advisor to the association. That was back in 2018. I was appointed vice chairman, policy and regulations. in 2019. I was appointed General Secretary in 2020. And by December 2020, I was elected. It introduced an election for the first time, and I was elected the president. So that gives you an idea of someone who is trying to build the ecosystem, because I didn't need something I could start doing business on. So I needed to take a step back, a bit away from my law practice, and become one of the leaders in the space. And in doing so, we've gotten a lot of the local and foreign players in the space together. We've even gone to the extent of having a code of conduct for virtual asset service providers in the country, so that we can keep safe in the system and all of that stuff. So just this month, I'm expected to either run for a second tenure or hand over to a new president, right? Whatever I do, this just gives you an idea of how you can be an ecosystem builder. I have seen some others too outside blockchain space do this. For example, if you know Beverly Onyejanya Bakova, who is the daughter to the senior advocate, Mr. Bakova, you find that I see her, I don't know about you, I see her as an ecosystem builder in sports. When it comes to law and intersection with sports, she's an ecosystem builder there. You can check her out as well. So just to give you an idea of how ecosystem builders work, right? They basically start from nothing and just to create opportunities in the space. And then people begin to come in to explore, right? Today, people perhaps know me more as CBAN president or all that than Infusion Lawyers, partner. In my engagement with CBN, SEC, all of the rest of them, I never mention Infusion Lawyers. I may never mention my private practice. It's always about the association, right? So that's an ecosystem builder. Because having done this, you know that you can sit back at some points and begin to explore the opportunities that have been created. Today Binance and all of the rest of them are in Nigeria doing one business or the other. They need lawyers who will be able to guide them to navigate. So that's an ecosystem builder. It's not for everybody. I'm not saying that you must become an ecosystem builder, but if you find yourself having to play that role, you're never too young. Even now, you can join any association around you in your area of interest. You're involved in data privacy. Try looking at an association around there. Venture capital. Try joining the venture capital association. If it's capital markets, join the capital markets solicitors association. And begin to build from within. That way, there will be a lot for everyone, and the pie or the meat pie can go around. The next stuff here, which is what I'm going to be running off with. What advice would you give to someone who wants to try out or apply the knowledge, cryptocurrency or blockchain for the first time? Interesting. Okay, so over time, a lot of people have asked me, Senator, how do I start? I'm fresh in the space. You've done some stuff. Please help me. There's someone whose question I've left hanging on LinkedIn over a week now, because the person asked me, can you give me a career guidance on how to play in the blockchain space? I haven't responded because I typically don't know how to answer such questions. They are too open and doesn't really help me to answer you. This is what I think. First, I think that you have to get involved. You can't stay outside to play inside. You have to get in. And I've always advised or suggested to guys who reach out from the legal space to try and join CBAN, for instance, the Stakeholders in Blockchain Technology Association of Nigeria. When you're there, don't sit back, try to engage. There are several committees, including the Policy and Regulations Committee, that most lawyers in CBAM usually join because that's what they are usually interested in by practice. So join associations like that and volunteer. In a voluntary association like that, you won't gonna get paid for what you do. I don't get paid, I'm not on salary. I've never been on salary since 2018. But you have to give, you have to give. So get involved, volunteer for stuff. Don't be intimidated by what others have done before. Just get in and start. I like to say that we are still in the early days, so it's not too late. You can get in now, and in the next few years, you can also become an authority in your own rights. So get involved in the space, don't stay out. Attend blockchain and cryptocurrency conferences. They are happening like every week in Nigeria. Just yesterday, we had a dinner and roundtable with industry players, and Deborah was also there. So get involved in blockchain and crypto conferences. This year alone, I can't count how many panel sessions and speaking roles I'll have to take. I can't count them anymore. It used to be so new to me back then. Each time I had one, I would go to my CV and have it there. Right now, I can tell you the last time I updated my CV regarding that must have been in the year 2020. So in the last 3 years, I've not been able to capture most of the blockchain conferences that I've had to speak in. So please get involved in blockchain conferences. There are many of them by Tech Points, by Tech Conference, Tech About, all the rest of them. Get involved. Associations also have their own conferences. In CBAN, we have this one called P2P conference. It's open to everyone. We had one in August, right? So get involved in conferences. Also, I would say when you find people who are in the space, don't always, as a default, ask open questions like, please, I need a guide. Can you guide me? It doesn't help the person you're speaking to. They might be too busy to get into all that, but they have a lot to share. So start with something like, I'm interested in blockchain. I came across one of your works on blah, 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 blah. It interests me that you find self-regulation to be a key role in the space. I was wondering, why do you think so? I'm really interested in this space too, so this really interests me. Find a connection, don't look selfish, right? Yes, you want to get somewhere, you have answers that needs questions, you have questions that need answers, but don't be too into yourself, right? Always, no one is too young to be empathetic. So you have to put yourself in someone else's shoes. So the person could be a son, could be a very young guy who doesn't even, who might not be busy, but look like you're really interested in their work. So if you say, hey, you're president of CBAN, I see some of the stuff you guys have done. This is a place I would like to play. Do you think there's any chance for me, or do you have someone you could recommend me to or something? That helps me and helps everybody. It shows genuineness. It shows that you've also been paying attention. And let me say it here, I have mentors, right? But 98% of my mentors don't even know that I am their mentee. I'll say that again. I have mentors. 98% of them do not even know that I am their mentee. So I have mentors from outside the jurisdiction mostly. And I don't go to their LinkedIn and ask open questions. Rather, their work is in the public. So I just, okay, this guy, I read about them. I buy their books. I read them inside out. I download every of their articles. The next one that comes out, I'm reading it the next day. Sometimes it's a paywall. I pay for it, right? I am following. So by the time I'm asking you a question on LinkedIn, you know that I'm not just one who fell from the sky or from the thin air. I know you, I know your work, you know. So let's be that genuine. Let's be interested in what mentors or whoever person want to reach out to is doing. That connects you better. And I tell you, you have to know that you're not the only person asking this person. There are perhaps 100 people asking. That's how you stand out, right? And let me quickly drop this as a goodbye message. In my firm, a lot of people apply for internships and all that stuff. Those ones that usually stand out for me, right, are those that have an interesting cover letter. What is a cover letter? So in many of the applications we get, people just simply dump applications on us. I use dump. It's a verb that Chinua Suzu, my former boss, used to use a lot. Dump means you just come in and say, I'm interested in applying for your stuff. I've attached my CV or my resume, right? It's more like dumping. What you need to do is to always have a cover letter in mind. What's a cover letter? You are not just introducing what you have attached, you're also connecting who you are to who I am or who we are as a law firm. So always do some assignments. Try to look for a connection between what you want and what the law firm or organization you're writing wants. Once you connect those two, I tell you, magic begins to happen. In where I used to work years back, Assizes law firm, where Chinua Suzu was my senior partner, there's this thing he does. Chinua Suzu, by the way, is a legal writing authority. If you Google Chinua Suzu, he has many books on legal writing. And one of the things he tells me, Senator, when you're writing someone, right, especially in a letter, a formal letter, start with the person, not with yourself. So before I met Chinua, I used to be, dear sir, we are blah, 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 blah. Or dear sir, I am blah, 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 blah. It doesn't work anymore for me. So how I do is I say, dear sir, Hilton Top Solicitors is one of the law firms known to be playing well in the emerging technology space. This is one of the things that I find interesting about you, especially your core values, which is about innovation, about ethics, and all this. When you say that, you open your next paragraph and say, this is why I find you so interesting, because I've always believed that emerging technologies is the future. And one of the ethics that I live by is you use the ethics of these solicitors and be sure that you really believe in those ethics. And then your last paragraph, you say that you think that you should, be invited to intern at the firm, so that just as you get value from the firm, you can also add value to that firm. So you see now you have identified the value, you have connected the value, and you have made a request. You will hardly get a no. If you get a no for an answer, trust me, it will be because perhaps there is no vacancy, there is no space. But they will advise that, could you reapply January next year so that we can look at this again? That's it.
Wow. Wow. Although the tests are quite muted, so they won't be able to speak out. But please send in your claps. Your claps, please send them in. Wow, Senator, that was great. Like my notes, boom. I know I love to be a student today. Yeah, really. I do love to. Please send in your clap. There's nothing more I will say, because you left me with nothing to say. You have like gone very deeply into this whole topic, even gone outside the topic to give them the real advice like this later part you touched on. I mean, this is something they can't just get from, in fact, some master classes or some trainings, come and get training for this that they go for. Sometimes you don't even get some of these real life things. And this is someone that has poured out his heart, not from stories. Like I told every one of you, unfortunately, we don't know, most of them will be battling with battery issues, and some of them are deep into exams. If not, on other days, we do have over 100 of them attending. Today, we had about 80, but with time, they had to leave because of battery or other issues. But this message will be related to them on the WhatsApp platform, and the other ones that are here will relay the message, and we will also convey it there. And then, of course, when they share the recordings for those who were actually available, they'll be able to learn more from it. But really, for those of you here, you cannot stay away from this. This is one of the classes you shouldn't have missed. For those, I mean, this message is for those who are not here. And I am grateful to every one of you who paid the price to stay to this moment. You don't get to see people like this on the road to pour out their heart like this. Senator is a very, very busy person. Like you heard from the short profile we read, the various organizations that he's heading. So by virtue of that, he should be very busy, and not to talk of his personal own, right? But he created that time to come and talk to you young ladies, emerging